Welcome everyone to our prayer journey study of the book of Revelation. We're going to chapter 9 today, about half of the chapter, and we had left off with completing chapter 8 last time that we were together. So let me just read the last verse of chapter 8 as a reminder. Chapter 8, verse 13, "And I beheld, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven," that's John speaking, "saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound." So we're going to have 7 trumpets. 4 of them have already went out. And this angel completed by saying, Woe, 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 a reconnaissance angel, in a sense, knowing what's going to come, seeing ahead of what is going to fall upon the earth. And these woes are similar to an attack that happened when we went into Iraq, where we softened the ground by flying sorties and bombing every area and softening it up. And I think God is doing the same thing here for 2 purposes. One, for the judgment upon those that will never turn to him, and in a hope for the ever merciful God to try to get people to come to a knowledge of him, to be recognized that he is God and he is about to judge because they have taken every opportunity he has given them and turned their backs on the Lord God. And what did he do in that last chapter 8? What he did is he rained down this bombing sortie of a lot of different things, an air attack, hail and fire. Then something like a mountain, probably an asteroid or something along that lines, crashes into the earth and causes damage. And then a chemical attack, in one in which the waters be turned bitter and sour and are of no use anymore to man. And then darkness, bleakness, hopelessness. That is the last part of that attack from the first 4 angels. You know, God spoke softly and carried a big stick for a long time. And now, to deal with mankind, he has come to the point where we have hardened our heart so much, not, of course, as saints, but mankind has hardened their heart against God. They want to be God, and they stand up and defy God, and now God is going to use that stick to beat down the cruel and hateful hearts of mankind, the ones that will not submit. You know, this is not a one-time occurrence. This same thing happened in Egypt with Moses. If you look back to Exodus chapter 9, verses 23 through 24, it says, and I'm taking excerpts from it, "And Moses stretched forth his rod toward the heavens, and the Lord sent thunder and hail and fire." In Exodus 10:21 through 23, the same thing, hail and fire. In Exodus 7:14 through 24, all the rivers were turned to blood. The fish died, and the rivers stank. And he put darkness upon the land. The same thing in Exodus 10:23. Listen, "They did not see one another, neither did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But the children of Israel had light in their dwelling." You see, God protects his own. He marked 144,000 at the last time we met to seal them, to protect them. God's people have the light. The 144,000 called to Israel, to the new Israel, to bring Israel back, to restore the marriage that he had with them. He divorced Israel, but Israel's going to come together with Judah again by these 144,000 witnesses. And one can only hope that a lot of other Gentiles would also come into the fold. So now let's start reading in chapter 9 and see what happens. "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven upon the earth. Now listen to this key. And to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. Now, I don't want to get into a lot of theology, but most people in theology believe that the key here was handed over. This is to a man or a demon or a devil known as Satan, or and called by other names, Lucifer. And he has been given this key to open up. There are other scholars that think other things, but let's just go with this one here, that this is indeed Satan. So in verse 2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, a smoke of a great furnace. The sun and the air were darkened by reason from smoke of the pit. Here it is. The bottomless pit is open. You know, many people today don't believe in a heaven and a hell, but here we see that God opens it. Now, we're dwelling in two realms, the realm of the flesh and the material, and the realm of the spirit. So we may or may not be able to see this hell until God opens it into our dimension and it comes out, the smoke and fire come out. So let's read now to the next 3 verses, or 4 verses. I'll read 3 through to verse 6. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and upon them was given power as scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, but only those men which have not the seal of God on their foreheads. So they are sent out. Normally, what do locusts do? They eat the green things, but God stops them from doing that. They are commanded, it says in verse 4, they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing. God is again in control, commanding these armies through the use of Satan, that they are restricted on how far they can go. And there's a lot of restrictions here, and we'll see them as we go through. But he says next that they should not touch those men that have the seal of God on their foreheads. The 144,000 who are given a mission to restore Israel. Remember, God said he divorced himself from Israel. In Zechariah, I believe it is, he says, I'm going to take the 2 sticks, the broken stick, Israel and Judah, and put them together again. And that is their job. So he is restricting these scorpion-like creatures, these things that come out and are able to attack all of mankind. And to them was given that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment as the torment of scorpions when he striketh a man. So the scorpion sting is extremely painful. I know one time when I was going to drink a soda at a fair, there happened to be a yellow jacket in it, and as I put it to my lip, he stung my lip. And I'll tell you, that really hurt. It hurt so bad. It didn't last, but it hurt. And could you imagine these creatures, these demons, or whatever they may be, going out, striking men, and hurting them, and just continually striking men, and striking men, and striking men, and then knowing this verse in verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death, and they shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. You know, there's a lot of things going on in our world about a great reset, and there is rumors, and I don't want to get into conspiracy theories or anything like that, although we know that they really do want a great reset. They talk about that. But there are people that say that a lot of these wealthy billionaire, trillionaires, or whatever they're close to being now, want to live forever, and they're trying eugenics to do that. Perhaps they succeeded here. Or perhaps Satan doesn't want them dead. Or perhaps God doesn't want them dead. But they're going to have their wish to live and can't die. And boy, when they know they're not God, and God is God, they're in a lot of trouble. So we go in verse 7, and the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads it was like crowns of gold, and their faces as the face of men. What torture that falls upon mankind on this thing. So we go in verse 8, and they had hair on there as the hair of a woman, and their teeth were as teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. These creatures take pleasure in hurting man. They are striking men, and probably striking them over and over again, knowing they can't die, and they enjoy the torture. You know, I always wondered about hell. If you're separated from God, forget any fiery torture and things along that line, but if you're totally separated from God, there's no love in the world at all, because God is love and he's not there. And you are cast into a pit forever. What enjoyment do you have? Did you ever see a bunch of kids let out at a public school during break? Or even a private school? Boy, do they run out and want to release the energy. Can you imagine these beasts, these demons, being locked up, or a penitentiary being locked up and let out, and they can do as they please? Oh, it would be a horrible kind of a thing to face. This is where you take a look and say, you know what? If I don't know the Lord, I want to find out if he really does exist. You really should do that if you don't know the Lord, because you don't want to wind up like these people here, or you don't want to wind up everlastingly separated from God, whatever that would be, which we'll see later in the book of Revelation. So in verse 10, and their tails were like unto scorpions, and there were stingers in their tails, and their power was to hurt men for 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. I believe it's in the book of Proverbs where it says that grasshoppers don't have a king over them. Locusts don't have a king. They just go and do together as they are called to do. They go and they'll eat all of the leaves everywhere they're going, which we know from this, they're restricted from. Their only target seems to be men, and not men that have the mark of God on them. And they had a king over them, again, which is the king of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon. I can't say it. Abaddon. I can't say it right now, I'm sorry. But in the Greek tongue had his name Apollyon. So this is the devil. This is Satan. This is the demon in control of all demons, who is limited to one place at one time. He's not like God, omnipresent. He can't do what God can do. He's in one place and one time. Now I'm going to close here today at verse 12 with this warning from the angel. Here's what he says. One woe is past. Behold, there come 2 more woes thereafter. So let's not face any of those woes. Because what happened during this period? The church was raptured out. They're with God. The tribulation saints that were killed during the tribulation are away from this torture. But those who refused God have come to a place where they're being tortured and can't even die. They're going to welcome death to find a second death that's not so welcoming. So something to think about. Something to check the body of this video and see how you can avoid it. So until next time, may Jesus increase as we decrease.